homeless people in Reno and how it's affecting its citizens. This is the Get Your Ass to Work podcast. Today we're talking about the homeless population because it is on the rise in Reno, Nevada. Now, I'm from San Jose, California. And San Jose, California, I don't know if it was started there, but it definitely kind of coined the phrase tent city. And this is where the homeless population in San Jose was allowed to live down the sides of the freeways and under bridges and anywhere where there was no direct pedestrian traffic. People were just setting up tents and living all over the city in these little communities. And it spread to a point where you would drive down the freeway and you'd see nothing except for tents just and garbage lining the sides of the freeways. And it's starting to happen here in Reno. They're starting to relax the standards on how they are allowing the homeless people to camp out and where they're allowed to be around. And I'm being real. The people who live here in the city are starting to complain. So, look, people in California, oh God, let's not even start with San Francisco and what the homeless population is doing there. They are basically allowed to sleep on the sidewalks. They are, whether they're allowed to or not, they piss and they shit all over the sidewalks. And these aren't like the run-down sections of town where people aren't really seeing what's happening. This is in neighborhoods. This is in front of buildings. This is in front of your store. Homeless people have just basically have been allowed to do whatever they want. And it comes with this idea of being tolerant and having compassion. Well, I have those things. But being tolerant and being compassionate does not mean you allow people to do whatever the fuck they want to do just because you don't want to have to create any sort of hardship for another human being or another individual. You're basically allowing them at your own expense to do whatever the fuck that they want to do, live however they want to live, so that you can feel like you're doing something good by being compassionate and allowing it to happen. And you go and you visit San Francisco and you're playing hopscotch around piles of shit. This isn't an exaggeration, guys. I'm not making this up. This isn't like I'm pretending that this is happening. This is happening. It's in the news. I'm sure people know about it, but let's be real. The homeless population I don't know if it's actually growing by the numbers, but I do know this. It is very more transparent. They are very much more out in public. The panhandling is getting more aggressive. And for one thing, and the reason why I'm doing this podcast today is because they are now allowing homeless people to camp out near the Truckee River more and more. They're allowed to set up their own little encampments along the Truckee River, and it's growing. And it's growing to the point where people are complaining, and there are certain people that do not want to take their kids down to some of the beautiful walking trails that we have along the Riverwalk, along the Truckee River that goes right through the middle of downtown Reno. And there's some really cool shit in the summertime here in Reno where people are floating down the river and the kids are playing in downtown and people are just kind of, hanging out and having a good time. But you've got this growing homeless population. I volunteered with one of my companies to go out and do a day cleaning the river. And this is no bullshit. There are so many heroin needle caps laying all over the Truckee River alongside on the banks of the Truckee River that I literally didn't understand what I was looking at until much later when somebody told me what these little orange caps were, and they are the top to heroin needles, and they were all over. I'm talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. I mean, imagine just walking down the side of the Truckee River and you start to climb down the embankment towards the water, which kids do when they go play, and seeing tons and tons of fucking heroin cap needles. And we did find syringes. We found needles down by the Truckee River. and it is constantly being maintained by the city of Reno. We picked up so much trash and garbage down the sides of the embankment. There is no fucking way that I would allow kids to play in that water past the point of downtown, because all of that garbage and all of that trash is starting in downtown and it's flowing past downtown, probably out to Pyramid Lake. Guys, it's not a good situation. I saw what they did in San Jose, and here's how it happens. In San Jose, California, and probably San Francisco, although I didn't live there, the first thing they do is people start to vilify the police. They start to say that the police are not being compassionate, and they film the police arresting homeless people, and they basically make the police out to be the biggest pieces of shit. This is what people are doing. And they're starting to do it to the police here in Reno. And the next thing that happens is the police say, fuck it. We're no longer gonna patrol, or we're no longer gonna make contact with people who are camping out or are causing a problem. And then you have this gathering that is allowed to spread like cancer. Now, I'll tell you what, I don't really give a shit what your opinion is on it. This is my opinion. Nothing good comes out of tent cities. It is dirty. It is full of fucking garbage. Okay, look, these hippies and these homeless people, whatever, whoever they are, and I'm not saying it's all their fault for being homeless. We're not judging anybody, but I'm telling you the truth. Nothing good comes out of these homeless encampments. It's full of drugs. It's full of people being trafficked. It's full of prostitution, and it's full of fucking garbage and filth and people hanging out, not doing anything. Local businesses and homes get vandalized or broken into. People have to deal with the homeless population walking by their house all the time, cutting in and out of neighborhoods and going to the freeways, and basically having this homeless encampment on the other side of the wall to which you live going on day and night. And so now that they're building these tent cities down by the Truckee River, when we went to go volunteer, we had to have a park ranger escort us down by the river. They had to escort us through the river because the homeless people are known to be violent. Some of them are. And so, look, you've got these people who are, either mentally not all there. You have people who are choosing to be there. But the truth is that it is dirty. They are using drugs, and they are causing a problem where they are at. These are not the friendly hippie people, that you see going to Burning Man, who are all about the environment and leave no trace and clean up after themselves. They trash the place. They piss and they shit everywhere. And this is happening here in Reno, and the problem only gets worse. It does not take care of itself. The trash starts to pile up. The rivers, they're just going to end up getting polluted, and people will end up not going down to these areas of town. And what's going to happen next is, the police will stop patrolling these areas, and they're just going to allow it to continue and to happen, and it'll just spread. And, finally, certain citizens will put their foot down and make the police do something until you have what happens in San Francisco, where nobody's allowed to do anything. And if that's what people want, we're headed for it. It will happen eventually. Now, I'm not here to tell you how to control the homeless population. I literally don't have an answer on what to do. But I know for sure what doesn't work, and what doesn't work is having compassion and being, nice to these people, basically just letting them do whatever the fuck they want and expecting the problem to take care of itself. That is absolutely the wrong formula. Now, I hate to say this about the people, but it does cause a group to continue to gather, and it grows and it spreads, and then it becomes homeless friendly, and then you have the continuance of the problem, which is basically tons of drugs, tons of problems, and then nobody wants to go to the areas to which these homeless people are. And these are all the people crying, say, have compassion for these people. Be tolerant of the homeless population. They're people too. I get that. I get it, I swear that I do get it, but being tolerant is not a fucking solution. Okay? Letting them do whatever they want to do is not a fucking solution, and it doesn't help anyone. It sure as fuck doesn't help them because they're still out on the street. It doesn't help the city because the city has to pay all kinds of money in ambulance rides and using up resources on taking the same person to the hospital 9 times in a single month, and arresting them, releasing them, putting them through programs. That's all taxpayers' money. So, look, one solution that I have found, and I'm hard-pressed to call this a solution. One thing that I found online was that, I think it was the state of Utah, a certain city in Utah, New Orleans, was able to reduce their homeless population by 90%. And they did it through government intervention. Basically, they had the government come in and build these homes and build an area where the homeless people can stay. And the homeless people are, I guess, obligated to pay something like $50 a month rent. And if you don't treat other homeless people, if you're homeless, you don't treat other homeless people nice there, you get kicked out. And so if you're using drugs, I think you get kicked out or something like that. And apparently it reduced the population of the homeless people by 90%. Now, I'm not here to be Debbie Downer, that's cool, but it didn't actually reduce the homeless population by 90%. All it did is it got 90% of the homeless population walking the streets out of the public eye. And they did it by spending money. So basically what they did is you spend a bunch of money and it keeps them contained in an area and it raises their quality of life. That's great. I'm not against that, but you are going to have to pay for it. And so the solution is you pay for it. And you're going to pay for it one way or another. And it sounds like, now I didn't do all the research on this and I'm not going to, but it sounds like the way they made this out to be is that it costs less to do this than it does to keep cleaning up homeless encampments, driving them to the hospital, keep arresting them, keep putting them through rehabilitation programs, which they're not doing. This other solution has worked to get them off the street, but it's going to be an ongoing battle. The last thing that I want to see is the town of Reno, and it's starting to happen in Carson City. Guys, I'm driving through Carson City the other day, and I fucking love Carson City. I'm seeing definitely an increase in the amount of vagabond activity, whatever you want to call it. Homeless type of looking people walking the streets in Carson City. There is no solution to stop it at 100% level. And if somebody has the solution, I don't know if it's been implemented. Basically, anywhere is just going to basically say the same thing. You're going to have to spend money, time, and resources taking care of these people. Some of them can take care of themselves and choose not to. Some of them legitimately need fucking mental help. I get that. So I don't know what the solution is, but one thing I do not want to see is Reno turn into a San Francisco or turn into a San Jose. Because I'll tell you what they've done there is a losing fucking formula. Nobody wins in that situation. It becomes a homeless-friendly environment. The homeless population will continue to grow, and then basically at some point you can no longer contain where they're hanging out at, and they just go all over the fucking city and basically destroy it with garbage, litter, human waste, syringes. Guys, I have found syringes in Reno. And I hate to say it, but this is happening here. This problem is spreading. It is getting worse. I don't know what your feelings are on the needle exchange, on having free needles given to people, and I'm not totally against it. I'm not actually for it either. I don't actually know what to think about it, but it creates a friendly drug-using environment. It doesn't make it any easier for these people to get off drugs, but maybe it stops the prevention of spreading diseases. I don't know which way to take it, but the one way that I do not feel that this problem is going to be attacked is by being tolerant and is just by being compassionate. That shit doesn't work, okay? In fact, it's a cop-out. It's the laziest fucking way that I can think of for someone to get out of having to deal with a difficult problem. And the homeless population is a difficult problem because these are people. they are people that at one time have probably been very successful citizens of the state of Reno. Some of them, or the city of Reno. Some of them, have probably been, unfortunately, didn't get dealt the right hand of cards at birth and have mental issues and are out on the streets. I get it. We are dealing with people. It's not easy, but that doesn't mean you let them do whatever the fuck they want to do, unless you want a San Jose to happen, unless you want a San Francisco to happen. If that's the direction that you're okay with happening because you don't want to put any unwanted pressure on anybody to do anything, and you want to vilify the police every time they have to deal with the same people over and over and over again, well, then we will get that kind of a society here in Reno. That will be part of the tourist attraction here in Reno, because it was on my visit to San Francisco last year. Definitely people just walk up to you, ask you for money. That's just what's going to happen if you don't do it. And if you're okay with that, then fine. If not, I'm not going to preach that you should just be tolerant of the situation and what's happening here. Something's going to have to be proactive. I don't know if building tiny homes like they suggest is going to be the answer. Either way, I think at this time, you're going to pay for it. I think you are going to have to, it's going to be taxpayer dollars that is going to take care of the problem. And if it takes care of the problem to at least a certain level or contains it, I would suggest that over doing nothing, which is kind of what we're doing right now here in the city of Reno. We're not doing shit, and we're starting to vilify the police because we don't want to see the police be mean and be police brutality and all this other shit that people cry about. But you're also going online and talking about how you won't go down to the river anymore and you don't want to bring your kids to places because you don't feel safe from the homeless population, the panhandling, the rampant drug abuse that's happening in downtown. Everybody's complaining about how shitty downtown is, but they also don't want to take the next step, which is do something about it. So, again, guys, thanks for listening. If you have any comments on this, man, really, it's a problem we're going to be facing for a long time. The more money that comes into Reno, the more tolerance that is being preached, the bigger this problem is going to get. And it's got to be taken care of or not. And if not, well, you guys know what the consequences are. Take a look at San Francisco and go visit there and see what that place has turned into. And we're on the railroad tracks for something like that happening if we continue to allow the problem to expand. Thanks for tuning into this podcast, and we will see you guys next week. As always, if you have any questions about building your real estate business, that's actually what I do. I help people build their real estate business. I am a real estate agent. We help people. If you're an agent, give me a call. If you're thinking about getting into real estate, give me a call. I'll get you on the right track on how to get started successfully. And you can always get a hold of me. My email address, renopuz@gmail.com. Find me on social media. My name is Daniel Puz. I'm on Facebook. You can message me directly. And if you guys want to start a conversation, you guys can tell me I'm wrong about this. I had people telling me I'm wrong about this on Facebook the other day, telling me I'm an asshole, I'm pompous, dickhead. I know. I already know these things. You guys don't even have to tell me anymore. I get it. I'm with it. Come up with a solution. You guys can tell me what kind of a piece of shit I am all fucking day, but guess what? You still didn't come up with a solution. You still didn't present anything worthwhile, anything worth listening to. And that's what I actually want to hear. You can tell me I'm a dick after. I'm with that too. We'll see you guys next week.